Welcome, seekers of wisdom and truth, to an exploration of the profound and mysterious world of symbols. Today, we embark on a journey to understand what a symbol truly is and how these powerful tools operate in the universe and within our culture and ourselves. As we delve into the ancient language, we will uncover deeper and deeper layers of meaning that connect us to the hidden realms of existence. Symbols operate on multiple levels, from the physical to the metaphysical. They serve as a medium to bridge the tangible and intangible. In the cultural tapestry of humanity, symbols are a thread not only to our most ancient origins in totemic societies, but also a thread that connects all of our shared experiences and collective memories together. As we progress, we will find that symbols are a timeless language of the universe, the keys to unlocking the mysteries of ourselves and the natural laws that are operating all around us. They operate through resonance and reflection, touching the deepest parts of our consciousness and revealing the hidden truths that lie within and beyond us. Other great minds, sages, and philosophers have asserted that symbolism at its essence has innate qualities that are timeless and extend this to the very reality and fact that the universe has the emergent property of symbolism to communicate information about itself to beings with the capacity to understand and comprehend this information. Symbolism stretches far beyond the creation of a graphic designer or an artist. Though that is a crucial component to what symbolism is, it is not limited to this box. Many of us have an innate curiosity about the meaning of symbols and their importance or use in the world. Some of us dismiss symbolism as just a fleeting thing that has no purpose or meaning, that can be changed on the whims of the perceptions of the individuals. We find profound symbolism throughout all ages and all human cultures. The Ouroboros, a serpent devouring its own tail, represents the eternal cycle of creation and destruction, life and death. It is an emblem for infinity and unity of all things, reminding us of the interconnectedness of the cosmos. In ancient Egypt, we have the Ankh. More than just a hieroglyphic, it embodies an eternal truth about the nature of the soul and the divine spark within all beings. The loop represents a sacred feminine principle or the spiritual aspect, while the crossbar and vertical line symbolizes the union of opposites when in conjunction with the loop. It is a masculine component. It represents the material aspect, and the harmony between these two creates reality, a balance between the material and spiritual realms. In mythology, we have symbols like the labyrinth, an intricate maze leading to a single center, mirroring the soul's journey towards enlightenment. Every twist and turn represents the challenges and trials we must face to reach the heart of understanding where true wisdom lies. Throughout all cultures, we find the tree of life, which has a ubiquitous meaning between each of them, which maps the journey of the soul through the divine realms. Each Sephiroth of the Kabbalistic tree of life represents a different aspect of creation, guiding us from the material world to the spiritual enlightenment of unity with Source. Symbols are the timeless living images and patterns that reflect and express universal archetypes and truths, embodying the deeper connection to the cosmic order. As we continue our journey through the world of esoteric symbolism, let us remain open to the wisdom of these ancient symbols. This is Beyond the Forbidden Veil, Episode 2, Symbolism, the Universal Language. the last episode, we covered what the occult actually is and ritual, specifically to its correlation to the journey of the self or the spiritual journey. We covered initiatory rites, rites of passage, and fertility rites. And in reference to episode 1, I would like to give this quote by R.A. Schwaller de Lubix, the man with the most impossible name to pronounce. He states, "Esotericism has no common measure with deliberate concealment of the truth, that is, with secrecy in the conventional sense of the term." So keep that in mind as we move forward through this series. As we progress through this series, it will be a chronological introduction and initiation into deeper philosophical and esoteric knowledge, which is crucial not only for ourselves on our spiritual journey, but crucial for the evolution of consciousness and the state of humanity in the current world. When it comes to symbolism, we need to look within ourselves to understand its deeper meaning. And as Manly P. Hall says, the nature about us uses the language of symbolism for the unfoldment of the potential of all its creations. The mysteries of life do not explain themselves or issue any dogmatic statement about their ways or workings. So to really get us started, let's look at the etymology of the word symbol. The word symbol has its origins in the Greek language. The prefix syn means together or with, and then balion in Greek is a verb meaning to throw or to cast. So the root idea behind the word symbol involves bringing things together or joining them, reflecting how a symbol connects a sign with what it represents. We should also take particular interest in the word cast because it doesn't just mean to throw. To cast is also a magical terminology, as in to cast a spell. Another context of the word cast is obviously a group of individuals that are performing in some form of theatrics. We also have the correlation to cast their votes as a magical ritual, and we will be getting into some of that later on. The verb cast means to cause a light or shadow to appear on a surface. So think about that through the mind of the correlative thinking and associate light and shadow to these concepts of magic and sorcery. And then we can understand why casting was used as the verb to imply a projection of magical energy. And what are we casting? Well, we are casting spells. So what are we spelling? We are spelling words, and these words are a conjunction of multiple symbolic forms and expressions, meanings, emotions, concepts being associated to each other. We literally are taking ingredients of our consciousness and casting them into forms. In its modern use, symbol refers to something that stands for or represents something else, often an abstract concept, idea, through association, resemblance, or convention. Hence, something which stands for something else, especially object, standing for or representing something sacred, moral, or intellectual, or intuitive. Edith Burkhardt says true symbolism depends on the fact that things which may differ from one another in time, space, material nature, and many other limitative characteristics, but can still possess and exhibit the same essential quality. And what he means here is that symbols are not limited based upon their materialistic appearance, that no matter what their position is in space or time, there is an eternal essence that remains. So this is how I would define symbolism. So this is a working definition going forward throughout the whole series. A symbol is a form that represents or stands for an idea, object, relationship, or other entity, conveying a specific meaning through its association, resemblance, or convention. Symbols can be visible, such as icons or images or mathematical notations, verbal, such as words or phrases, or abstract, such as spiritual truths or universal transcendental concepts. Symbols are a universal language which are the epistemic basis for all forms of knowledge, communication, arts, religions, sciences, and literature. Symbols are a universal emergent property of reality for the utility of revealing spiritual truths and sciences of nature, enabling individuals to understand the self through a process of unfoldment and to convey simple and complex concepts, knowledge, meanings, and ideas in a sublime and effective way. There are no means of communicating without the use of symbolic form, whether this physical or metaphysical. In the realm of philosophy, the circle represents the most perfect form of all the thought forms or abstract, transcendental, pure forms. So what I mean by this statement is that symbols are not dogmatic at their essence. It is only our perversion and corruption through folly and ignorance do we apply dogma to symbols. The symbol that I have chose here to represent what symbols actually are is the circle dot. The circle dot is a crucial symbol when it comes to understanding the basics of archetypes, or also what could be synonymously called pure forms. So they do have differential concepts between archetypes and pure forms. The outer circle represents the universe, the womb, wholeness, the divinity of reality and nature. It also represents unity, and the center dot represents the self, the emergent property of action, the emergent property of life, the emergence of creativity or manifestation. This symbol itself is also very similar to our pupil, which is so crucial to understand when it comes to seeing into the esoteric world. And as I always say, we have two eyes to see in the physical and one to see in the spiritual. Our two physical eyes are like black holes that absorb light and energy, and our third spiritual eye is like a white hole that does the opposite. We will be exploring more about the circle dot. The circle dot will be a consistent, ubiquitous symbol throughout this entire series. We will talk about magic circles and the use of magic circles within the practice of the occult and rituals. We will talk about it as a pure form, an essence, or a blueprint to understanding a spiritual truth and the secular nature of the spiritual journey. There is nothing in the universe that does not speak through the language of symbolism. Whenever we see a dark cloud coming over the horizon, we associate that to a potential outcome of rain or storm. When we hear thunder, it is a sound-based form of symbolism that allows us to have the information needed to connect with the potential dangers of a storm coming as well. This is just one example of an innate form of how we interpret our reality through symbolic forms. Symbolism was not created. It was discovered and then emulated and adapted for the use of intelligent beings. William Butler Yeats says a symbol is indeed the only possible expression of some invisible essence, a transparent lamp about a spiritual flame, while allegory is one of many possible representations of an embodied thing or familiar principle, and belongs to fancy and not to imagination. The one is a revelation, the other an amusement. And one of my favorite philosophers, Alvin Boyd Kuhn, says, the great key to wisdom and the great revelation of all esoteric systems is that they are couched in a symbolic language. All the scriptures of the world are written in this universal language of allegory. Symbolism is the language of the mystery traditions, and in fact, it is the language of existence, the universe, and nature. For every law and power active in the universal procedure is manifested to the limited sense perception of man through the medium of symbol. Every form existing in the diversified sphere of being is symbolic of a divine activity by which it is produced. By symbols, men have ever sought to communicate to each other those thoughts which transcend the limitations of spoken language. In a single figure, a symbol may both reveal the concealed. For the wise, the subject of the symbol is obvious, while the ignorant, the figure remains inscrutable. Rejecting man-conceived dialects as inadequate and unworthy to perpetuate divine ideas, the sages of the mystery schools thus chose symbolism as a more ingenious and ideal method of preserving their transcendental knowledge. Hence, he who seeks to unveil the secret doctrine of antiquity must search for that doctrine not upon the open pages of books which might fall into the hands of the unworthy, but in the place where it was originally concealed, which is in pure forms. Edwin Powell Humble was an American astronomer. He played a crucial role in establishing the field of extragalactic astronomy and observational cosmology. Humble proved that many objects previously thought to be clouds of dust and gases and classified as nebulae were actually galaxies beyond the Milky Way. He goes on to say, all nature is a vast symbolism. Every material fact has sheathed within it a spiritual truth. What does it mean to become symbol literate? Symbol literacy refers to the ability to recognize, understand, and use symbols effectively. These symbols can range from pictograms and ideograms to logos and cultural icons. Each symbol carries meaning and, when understood correctly, facilitates smooth and effective communication. To become symbol literate, one should expose yourself to a variety of symbols in different contexts to enhance recognition and understanding. And what I mean by recognition is pattern recognition. Use and interpret symbols in daily activities such as while driving, using digital devices, or engaging with media. But I would go as far as to say getting deep into the ancient understanding of symbols by looking at how ideas were preserved through symbolic form. Educate yourself about the history and meaning of different symbols, especially those that are culturally significant. Unfortunately, most people lack correlative thinking, which is a crucial component to understanding what symbols actually are and how to use them in your daily life. The study and understanding of symbolism fosters what is known as correlative thinking. Such thinking is sadly quite lacking in most of humanity. For example, if I establish that pen equals 20 and then lay out the equation bird plus wheel equals 50 and bird equals pen, the vast majority of people are inept at determining the value of the wheel or explaining why it holds such value. It is a simple process of correlative thinking to discern how to get the value of the wheel. If pen equals 20 and bird is the same as pen, which makes it 20, and the outcome is 50, then the wheel must then be 30. It is a very simple process of mathematics, of algebra, of arithmetic, and of correlative thinking. The pervasive symbolic illiteracy and the widespread lack of correlative thinking have made it remarkably simple for those versed in symbolism and archetypes to manipulate behavior at a subconscious level, which in the next episode, we're going to be going into the use and subversive use of sacred symbolism and understanding how our minds are altered by symbols and how the media, how the governments, how big business and corporations use symbols against the individual, especially the ones who are not aware of how these symbols affect their subconscious mind. Another profound quote by Alvin Boyd Kuhn is, "The failure to understand the nature and function of ancient symbolism has led modern thought into all its labyrinthian mazes of dead letter literalism." What this means is that we have literalized these aspects of allegorical and metaphorical meaning underneath the symbolism. We have taken things like elemental powers, which are phenomenons of nature, and literalize them into actual deified forms, which we will be exploring in future episodes. The study of symbolism and signs is called semiotics. There are three main branches of semiotics, which is syntactics, which is the study of structure of signs; semantics, study of meaning; pragmatics, study of the use of signs in context. Semiotics is the study of signs. It is both the theory and analysis of signs and signifying practices. Ferdinand de Saussure was a French linguist that was one of the first to produce a semiotic theory during work in the early 1900s. He states that a sign is made up of two parts, the signifier and the signified. Charles Sanders Peirce was an American philosopher that also formulated a semiotic theory around the same time. He stated that semiotics to be the relationship between a symbol, icon, and an index. So in semiotics, we have the signifier, any motion, gesture, image, sound, pattern, or event that conveys meaning and communicates. And then we have the signified, which is a concept that a signifier refers to, the meaning it conveys. The signifier is rose. The signified is the symbolic thought form that arises from understanding this. We also have connotation and denotation. Connotation, the feelings, ideas, and cultural meaning which are associated with the word or object, not the literal meaning. Denotation, the literal or primary meaning of a word in contrast to the feeling or ideas that the word suggests. So as some examples here, we have icons, signs where the signifier resembles the signified. We have symbols, signs where the relation between the signifier and the signified is purely conventional and culturally specific. And then we have indexes, signs where the signifier is caused by the signified. But to understand these things at a fundamental level, especially for the laymen among us, to further understand and illustrate the importance of symbolism, we have to understand archetypes. Archetypes are an original pattern or model from which all things of the same kind are copied or on which they are based. A model or first form or pure form or a prototype. I have 6 examples here of basic archetypes. Starting from the left, we have the dot, which represents centeredness, emergence, creation, focalized, fixed, and self. Then we have a circle, which can represent eternity, wholeness, perfection, fluidity, completeness, and divinity. Then we move on to the square, which represents stability, rigidity, groundedness, imperfect, base, and earthly. The triangle represents balance, synthesis, union, sharpness, intellect, and spirit. The star can represent sovereignty, achievement, openness, oneness, eternal, and being. And the cross can represent power, authority, strength, focus, will, and resurrection. In Alvin Boyd Kuhn's book, Through Science to Religion, he states, "The objects in the nature world are structural patterns of God's archetypal thoughts, which have taken form like a block of marble carved by a sculptor." Archetypes are primordial images and patterns of behavior that reside in the collective unconscious, the part of the unconscious mind shared by all of humanity. These archetypal images and motifs are inherent potentials, universal and innate, shaping our perceptions, emotions, and actions. These archetypes manifest in dreams, myths, and cultural narratives, guiding the individual's journey towards self-discovery and wholeness. They are not static entities, but dynamic processes that evolve within the individual's psyche, influencing their personal development and interactions with the world. Archetypes were first proposed by the philosopher Plato, but popularized by the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. He states in his book, Man and His Symbols, Part 1, Approaching the Unconscious, "My views about the archaic remnants, which I call archetypes or primordial images, have been constantly criticized by people who lack sufficient knowledge of the psychology of dreams and of mythology. The term archetype is often misunderstood as meaning certain definite mythological images or motifs, but these are nothing more than conscious representations. Such variable representations cannot be inherited. The archetype is a tendency to form such representations of a motif, representations that can vary a great deal in detail without losing their basic pattern. This is a crucial aspect to understanding what symbolism actually is, that there is an essence, a metaphysical or transcendental property, and the symbol is simply a representation of that inherent property of the universe. Plato talks about this a great deal with his idea of Platonic forms or Platonic archetypes. Platonic archetypes can be understood as eternal and immutable pure forms that exist in the realm of the ideal world and metaphysical world. These archetypal forms are perfect and unchanging, blueprints of which the phenomena we encounter in the material world are mere imperfect reflections. They represent a true essence of various concepts and entities, and our experiences and perceptions in the physical world are shadows or imitations of those perfect forms. Understanding archetypes means recognizing the existence of these perfect forms or pure forms and striving to align our perceptions and actions with their true essence. The material world is a space where we encounter these imperfect imitations, and through philosophical contemplation and the pursuit of knowledge, we can gain insight into the true nature of these archetypal forms. As an example of Platonic ideals, notice the hair color in this visual representation of Lady Guinevere. It's blonde as opposed to black or red. So the same woman can be a different archetype depending on the legend. This is how we symbolically correlate the fundamental principles of these images and representations. So to truly grasp the way that the ancients expressed their knowledge and sciences of the world and the self, we have to have correlative thinking to be able to transcend the limitations of literalizing these motifs. In Jungian psychology, we also have the animus and the anima, which are a crucial component to each individual's psychology. The anima is the inner feminine side of a man. It is a crucial part of his psyche and is often projected onto women in his life, influencing his perception and interactions with them. The anima evolves through 4 stages, each representing a deeper understanding of femininity. The first stage is Eve, which represents the initial attraction and sexual desires. The second stage is Helen, which embodies a more romantic and idealized view of women. The third stage is Mary, symbolizing the development of a spiritual and compassionate connection. And the fourth stage is Sophia, represents wisdom and the integration of the feminine into the whole personality of the male. The anima is often represented in dreams and art as a female figure, sometimes as a goddess, muse, or mythical being. The anima serves as a bridge, bringing unconscious material to consciousness, often through dreams and fantasies. By integrating the anima, a man can achieve greater self-awareness and personal growth, moving towards individualization, which is the process of becoming a whole and unique individual. The animus, on the other hand, is the inner masculine side of a woman. It influences her attitudes and interactions with men, and aspects of her psyche that are typically associated with masculinity, such as logic, authority, and strength. The animus evolves through 4 stages, each representing a deeper and more mature understanding of masculinity. The first stage is Hercules, which represents physical strength and the focus on power and action. The second stage is Apollo, which embodies the intellectual and crucial achievements often seen in figures who prioritize logic and rationality. The third stage is Hermes, which symbolizes communication, wisdom, and the ability to mediate between the conscious and unconscious mind. And the fourth stage is Zeus, which represents the ultimate integration of authority, wisdom, and spiritual power, guiding a woman towards her highest self. I would just replace that word here with autonomy, with self-autonomy or sovereignty. Sovereignty would probably be the best word to replace authority with. The animus is often represented in dreams and art as a male figure, sometimes as a hero, wise man, or a divine being. These symbols reflect the various aspects of the animus and its role in the psyche. The animus acts as a bridge, facilitating the flow of unconscious material to the conscious mind through dreams, thoughts, and fantasies. Integrating the anima and the animus is a transformative process that involves recognizing projections, engaging in inner dialogue, balancing opposing traits, and achieving psychological wholeness. This journey leads to a greater self-awareness, personal growth, and harmonious relationships, ultimately guiding individuals towards individualization and a more fulfilled life. To integrate these aspects, one must first become aware of how they are projected onto others and identify patterns in relationships and emotional responses. Engaging in inner dialogue with the anima or animus through techniques like active imagination and reflecting on how their qualities manifest in oneself is crucial. The process also involves balancing opposite traits within the personality, fostering personal growth through activities like therapy, meditation, and creative expression. As the anima or animus is integrated, individuals move towards individualization, achieving psychological wholeness and self-realization. This integration improves relationships by reducing projections, enhances creativity, and fosters deeper self-understanding. Challenges with integration include internal resistance, fear of confronting the unconscious mind, specifically that of traumas, and societal pressures. Overcoming these challenges leads to psychological balance, enhanced creativity, and a deeper self-awareness, guiding individuals towards a more fulfilled and harmonious lifestyle. Carl Jung goes on to say, though the effects of anima and animus can be made conscious, they themselves are factors transcending consciousness and beyond the reach of perception and volition. He also goes on to say, there is in man an imago, not only of the mother, but of the daughter, the sister, the beloved, the heavenly goddess, and the chthonic bobal. Every mother and every beloved is forced to become the carrier and embodiment of this omnipresent and ageless image, which corresponds to the deepest reality in man. It belongs to him. This perilous image of woman, she stands for the loyalty which in the interest of life he must sometimes forgo. She is the much needed compensation for the risk, struggles, sacrifices that all end in disappointment. She is the solace for all bitterness of life. Another aspect of Jungian psychology is known as the persona. The persona is the social mask or image that an individual presents to the world. It represents the roles and identities we assume to fit societal expectations and norms. While the persona helps navigate social interactions and maintain public image, it can lead to a disconnect from the true self if overemphasized. Balancing the persona with one's true inner self is essential for psychological health and authenticity. There's nothing wrong with having the mask. The mask is a very useful tool. As we talked about in the first episode, the mask is used in theatrical performances to imagine and to set a goal, and also to aspire towards characteristics or personality traits that you may be in lack of. It is a performance with yourself to refine one's character. But the mask is also a means of shielding the true self. It can be a limitation when ego identified with, and we believe that we are the mask or the persona. The mask is also a form of self-defense. The persona is a tool of consciousness which allows us to protect ourselves within group encounters and engagements from predators who may want to prey upon certain information that might be revealed if you are too gullible and open to those individuals. Underneath the mask is what is defined as the self. The self represents the totality of the psyche, encompassing both conscious and unconscious aspects. It is the central archetype and the organizing principle of the psyche, guiding individuals towards psychological wholeness through the process of individualization. The self integrates various aspects of the personality, including the shadow and the anima and animus, striving for balance and harmony. It often appears in dreams and symbols and serves as an inner guide, promoting integration, balance, and healing. Discovering the self involves paying attention to dreams, engaging in active imagination, and deep self-reflection or introspection. And as I mentioned before, which most of us will be aware of, the shadow is such a crucial part of understanding the self. The shadow represents the unconscious parts of the personality that an individual represses or denies. These aspects can include both negative traits like unbalanced aggression and selfishness, and positive qualities that are not acknowledged. The shadow is often projected onto others, leading to misunderstandings and conflicts. To achieve psychological growth and wholeness, it is essential to confront and integrate the shadow. This process involves recognizing and accepting these hidden aspects of ourselves, which fosters greater self-awareness and a more balanced personality. The shadow frequently appears in dreams and fantasies as dark or threatening figures, symbolizing the repressed parts of the self. It is extremely important to understand how crucial the integration of the shadow into one's personality actually is. The shadow represents the unconscious parts of the personality that the conscious ego does not identify with. The shadow contains all the aspects of oneself that one does not recognize in themselves, including repressed ideas, weaknesses, desires, shortcomings. The subconscious mind is connected to our true essence and knows and perceives all. If the shadow self is not worked with and integrated into our personality, it will be expressed in a very imbalanced and negative way. This especially is true when it comes to our repression of our healthy emotional dynamics. Under such condition, the imbalance amplifies at the subconscious level and then is manifested in negative ways, such as disassociation, unbalanced anger, unjustified reactivity, depression, apathy, and self-loathing, all of which thwart our forward progress to understanding our higher self or true self. The shadow self will always be present within ourselves, which means it is up to us to acknowledge it and work with it. If we choose not to work with it, we will suffer the dire consequences and inflict suffering upon others. Various forms of social engineering and mind control intend to convince us and program us to suppress our shadow self, which in turn creates a buildup in the subconscious mind of negative emotions that turn into depression and eventually into shame. Other forms of archetypal images are animal archetypes. So the wolf represents loyalty, watchfulness, companionship, courage, skill, hunter, trust, patience. It also is correlated in the esoteric eyes as lunar and feminine. The lion represents royalty, anger, lust, ferocity, honor, strength, tranquility, pride, and in the eyes of the esoteric, masculine and solar. The eagle represents ascension, vision, victory, liberty, foresight, bravery, higher consciousness, messenger, which also represents a masculine esoteric principle and solar esoteric principle. The butterfly represents metamorphosis, transformation, beauty, rebirth, gracefulness, schism, freedom, immortality, and in the eyes of the esoteric, it represents feminine and lunar principles. The serpent or snake represents energy, elusiveness, creativity, fertility, rebirth, wisdom, health, immortality, cycles, and it represents both in the eyes of the esoteric, the masculine and feminine principle. The bull represents stubbornness, commitment, strength, rage, agriculture, dominant, production, impenetrable, and in the eyes of the esoteric represents the masculine and solar principles. And the fox represents cunning, wits, luck, independence, mischievous, creativeness, playfulness, cleverness. In the eyes of the esoteric, it represents the feminine and lunar principles. We also have color archetypes, which is based upon the visible light spectrum that is a section of the electrical magnetic radiation spectrum that is visible to the human eye. This also correlates to the Vedic tradition of the 7 chakras, which we will be explaining in later episodes. At the base, we have the color red, which represents seduction, blood, aggression, active, vitality, hunger, immediacy, survival, stability, and arousal. Orange represents reception, courage, youth, desire, fertility, sexuality, optimism, happiness, warmth, and confidence. Yellow represents will, joy, attention, cheery, strength, insanity, humility, sickness, hope, and friendship. Green represents nature, growth, sickness, balance, new, care, decay, life, sensation, and talents. Blue represents calmness, passivity, fluidity, emotions, coolness, intuition, compassion, sadness, openness, security. Indigo represents reflection, imagination, integrity, empathy, mysteriousness, royalty, luxury, wisdom, bruised, gentle. and violet represents royalty, luxury, enlightened, elderly, elegance, spirituality, sorrow, wealth, eccentric, and unstable. Carl Jung goes on to state, "We are born with instinctive predisposition towards these qualities, a set of internal blueprints of what it means to be fully human. These blueprints or archetypes have a dynamic aspect. They can be thought of as bundles of psychic energy that influence the manner in which we understand and react to life, and through which we develop motives, ideas, and contain personalities. Although they reside deep within us at the unconscious level, the archetypes can be stimulated to emerge into consciousness, where they express themselves in forms of symbols and sciences." Another crucial part of understanding symbolism, especially as we move through totemic sociology, is the concept of anthropomorphization. Anthropomorphization is the attribution of human characteristics, emotions, or intentions to a non-human entity. This can include animals, plants, objects, or abstract concepts. It is a common tendency in human cognition and communication, often used to make sense of the world and relate to it in more familiar terms. Some examples of anthropomorphization we can find in talking animals in Disney movies and fables. Objects, such as describing a car as temperamental or giving a robot a name and a personality. Or natural phenomenon, saying a storm is angry or the sun is smiling. So the whole idea of putting a face on the sun is we are anthropomorphizing that to understand it at a deeper level and be able to relate with that psychologically and emotionally. Or abstract concepts referring to time as a thief or justice as blind. Anthropomorphization is prevalent in literature, art, religion, and everyday speech, helping to create more engaging and relatable narratives. There's also a very negative part of anthropomorphization. Whenever we eagerly identify with these anthropomorphic images and we associate them as to literalize them as actual things, such as the sun is actually a man, or the fox in the Disney movie of Robin Hood is actually Robin Hood. Then we fall prey to the imagination running amok, and we have now applied the folly of dogma into this symbolic relationship between the self and the form in which we are trying to understand. Some of the primary examples of anthropomorphication can be found in Christianity with the archetypal figure known as Jesus. Jesus is an astrotheological symbol for the sun, in which we have divinized and personified a ideological worship of an actual anthropomorphic form to an elemental power of nature. And then we have literalized it to the degree that now we believe that man is actually God, which leads us into many issues such as the bloodline fallacies of who gets to be God's deputies of this planet or who gets to rule over the human species. Jesse L. Weston was an English independent scholar, medievalist, folklorist, working mainly on medieval Arthurian legend and text, says, "Any monotheistic religion with a fully anthropomorphic deity is a ritual in an advanced form." Another danger of anthropomorphization of elemental powers, especially into deities, is that there is a great risk for people for focusing on the exoteric image rather than the esoteric underlying spiritual essence. This leads to where the form, the representation itself, is being worshipped instead of the veneration or the respect or the formless principle that is underneath of the form or the spiritual essence. This is also an example of the shadow being projected into our world and man's own ego-driven desires to be God of this world. We find this in many different mythological motifs. A great example of this would be Zeus, who carries the lightning bolt, which represents an elemental phenomenon in nature, but yet then is anthropomorphized into a deity that then is worshipped by man. The inability to distinguish between the science of the elemental phenomenon and power comparatively to the anthropomorphized form of this elemental power is the folly of man throughout history. Religious and political leaders use this to their advantage to manipulate individuals who have not yet the wisdom to distinguish one from the other, which serves their own agenda at dominating those who are less in the know than them. While it is true, fully anthropomorphic ideas of symbolic forms can make these forms more accessible and relatable to the psychology of man, they also come with significant risk. These include theological limitations, psychological projections of human flaws, and socio-political delusions, and especially religious manipulations. Becoming more aware of how this has evolved through the mythos and how this tool is misused can help individuals navigate the evolution of the mythos, religion, eschatology, and occultism through history. R.A. Schwaller de Lubitz, who has the most impossible name to pronounce, says, "Symbolism is the language of the mysteries, for it is the language not only of mysticism and philosophy, but of all nature, as every law and power active in the universal procedure is manifested in the consciousness through the medium of symbols." That is all the time we have for today, folks. I hope that this was very revealing, and I hope this covers at least the basis, which is some of the required knowledge to progress ourselves into the more advanced topics when we get to the esoteric mystery schools and secret societies and the use of their symbolism. So as we conclude our journey through the arcane world of esoteric symbolism, let's remember that the symbols we have explored are not just merely relics of the past, but each symbol represents a doorway to a greater understanding, a beacon or beam guiding us towards the hidden wisdom that lies within us and around us. As we decipher their meaning, it is a process of unfoldment. We uncover the timeless principles that connect us to the cosmic order and to each other. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of esoteric symbolism, and in the future we will be breaking down specific symbols rather than just the basics of what symbolism actually is. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries of the esoteric, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest explorations. Share your thoughts and questions in the comments below, and let us continue this journey of discovery together. Until next time, seekers of truth, may the symbols of the past and yourself illuminate your present and guide you to a future filled with wisdom and understanding. Please tune in for the next episode of Beyond the Forbidden Veil, where we will be taking a look at the use and subversive use of symbolism.